Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Peace, Tea, and Petty. I'm your host, Destiny, and I've got some good stories for y'all today that we're going to talk about. Being chronically online can be a double-edged sword. It can be absolutely horrendous for one's mental health, but also, I'm quite upkept with the tea. I've been joined by a little guest here. If you're listening to audio, you won't see this little demon. You ruined my life. She's great. I do agree limiting one's exposure to being online and social media is beneficial for your health, but I also find that writing stuff off, a lot of people have this mentality of like, oh, that's just fake, or oh, that's just rage bait, and then, they'll just write it off, block it, dismiss it, whatever. And yeah, like I said, protecting your mental peace, your inner peace, like, do what you gotta do. But I believe there is some valuable conversations to be had with these points, whether or not they're real or not, or just rage bait. Like, that sucks that we're in a time that rage bait is just like, that's social media, and that's what trends, that's what gets the algorithm going, that's what gets you views. But I do find value. They do bring up good talking points that you never would otherwise talk about or think about. And honestly, I find it kind of helpful because sometimes you might come across these individuals in these, like, seemingly insane once in a blue moon scenarios, but it seems to be more prevalent, I guess you could say, or at least something more likely you'll run into, because people are just getting more and more heated, I find. So I think, if anything, this can arm you with some tools or some knowledge or just somewhat mental preparedness. I don't know. And who knows? Sometimes it's just fun. Otherwise, I like tea. I like watching catastrophes that aren't my life. So I don't know. Sometimes it can be useful. Sometimes it's entertainment. But so the topics I have for today. Let's start off with the joke of a ticket, otherwise known as the hand to God incident. If you haven't heard or saw the video, it's another Florida man story, okay? Florida deputy, okay? He pulls over a woman driving her car, and the lady's name is Katie Thomas. She's hilarious, by the way. We love Katie Thomas in this house. So he pulls her over because he thinks, he's like, I saw you operating a mobile device in your right hand. And she pauses for a second. And this is like a comedic pause. Throughout this whole interaction, this woman is so comedic with her delivery. I was laughing, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Despite how ridiculous it is. The reason it being ridiculous is, so after he finishes his sentence, she's like, oh, really? So she lifts up her arm, and it's just I don't know what the correct, a stub, a nub. I don't know if I'm sorry if that's insensitive, but it looks like her arm is like cut off at the elbow. So she literally lifts up her right arm, which after he said, I saw you operating a mobile device in your right hand. So she holds up her arm to show him how wrong he is. And he doesn't, he pauses for a second, but he doubles down. He doubles down on that. And it's like, at first, after she presents her non-existent right arm, like a comedian, she's like, so we gonna call it a day? But no, the deputy doubles down. And I should mention, her name is everywhere because she shared this story, right? And the body footage was released. No, I haven't seen the deputy's name mentioned anywhere. And I think that's insane. I looked up his name, and I'm probably gonna butcher this. I'm sorry if I do, but not really, because he's kind of a piece of work. Deputy Yosvani Quesada? I don't know. Of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Yosvani. I couldn't find a picture of him, unfortunately, so I don't know what he looks like, but this goofball's eyes need to be checked. But beyond that, doubling down, he says he doubles down. He doesn't even like try to switch his narrative to like, oh, your other hand. No, he's like, yeah, I saw you with a device in your right hand, and she's like, the look on her face is like, are you kidding? And no, he doubles down and he writes her a citation, and she's like, visibly getting upset, like as naturally, because it's like, did you just fabricate this, sir? Like, and it really brings into question, I think, the validity of police claims. You know, like when it comes to situations like, say, like he didn't have video footage of her using her mobile device with her right hand. If it came down to that in court, like, how much weight do police officers' recounts of the story have versus the person they're giving the ticket to, right? Like, how much, like, it's he said, she said. And it's like, I don't know, this is crazy that he chose to double down. Like, it's anyway, so yeah, that obviously blew up because, like, that whole situation, but again, like, she handled it like a boss. Like, when she was like, obviously I wasn't using my phone, and he's like, really? Hand to God? And she raises the non-existent her amputated arm, or I guess I shouldn't say amputated, I don't know if she had it amputated or was born like that, but you know what I mean. She used the arm with the non-existent hand, and then to which he says, your hand, so she uses her other hand to God, so hence why that situation is known. I don't know, I'm just like I said, the validity of police calls and the doubling down, like, I don't know if this is just like his ego, if he's new to the force and he feels like he has something to prove. Like, I don't know, or if it's just like a weird, like, I'm a man, like, and the man ego. I don't know. That's just weird. But anyway, she took it like all the way to court, and of course it was dismissed because it's ridiculous. But the reasoning was lack of evidence, and I don't know, like, that just seems, I don't know if they just have like a certain limited terminology for when it comes to dismissing cases, to which I guess technically that is a lack of evidence, but it's like, honestly, this is just silly and it shouldn't have gone this far. It shouldn't have even happened in the first place. I tried looking up, and unfortunately I couldn't find any information on whether or not the deputy is still working or what as of now, as I'm filming this. But yeah, ultimately that was questionable. That was a laugh. I'm sorry she went through this, but she handled it as best as one could, and as comedic as one could, which I can appreciate. But I don't know. That's just really got to bring down. I mean, of course, it's a Florida man story. Like, where else would something like this happen? Like, yeah. Okay. Next topic. Boy moms. And so this is a very weird rabbit hole to go down. And like the term boy moms, like, if you don't know, it's not just a mother that has sons or a son. This is a whole different, like, this is like cult. This is like a cult. I swear. Okay, so we'll go into an example I found on Threads. So I guess to lightly describe, boy moms get weird, okay? It's like this weird enmeshment is a good term. They're so unhealthily connected with their sons, and they actually end up, you know, their sons just completely lack independence. They're just so reliant on their mom or someone doing things for them, so they're incapable as partners later in life. And there's usually just an unhealthy connection between the two. Like, I'd also even say, like, the mom has like some sort of internalized misogyny, because, you know, if you guys hear those Reddit stories where the monster-in-law, the mother-in-law, is just being an absolute see you next Tuesday to the wife or the fiance or the girlfriend. Like they hate women, but they have that so ingrained in themselves, so they raise their sons on these pedestals. It's almost like they're raising them to be the perfect partner for themselves. I don't know. It's creepy. That was a long-winded way of saying it's very fucking creepy. But a very blatant and weird example crossed my timeline the other day, and it's Jenny Mullen. She posted a picture with her and her son. Like, if you had no idea these two were mother and son, you would just think, oh, a boyfriend and a girlfriend lying in bed. Like, she's on top of him, holding him, very, like, and her fingers are in his hair. Like, this is weird. This is not normal. Like, don't get me wrong. Parents are allowed to cuddle their kids, but there's, like, boundaries. You know? Like I said, it looks like they're a couple, but like if you really like look at the photo, you can tell like the boy is pretty young. Like you don't like her face is in his face. Like it's weird. It's concerning. And like someone went to dig further. She has a Substack, and to which it's really concerning. The title of this Substack is "Please Stay. I Want You. I Need You, oh God." And literally right off the bat, the first line, "Call me old-fashioned, but I only want my sons to marry women with dead mothers. It's my only shot at staying relevant." Like, that's just one insert from that. So I don't know, if you want more weird, like, read it if you want to, but it's literally her just demonstrating the most unhealthy connection a mother has over her son. It's weird. It's almost like they romanticize their sons. They like, yeah, it's creepy. It's weird. I would not recommend. So that's Boy Moms. If you haven't heard or experienced it yet, but yeah, it's unfortunate. The boys, it's like, yeah, like I said, they get treated like they can do nothing wrong, so they grow up to be entitled, useless. Like, yeah, so it's dangerous, honestly, and just creepy. Like, it reeks of, like, a very covert, I'm gonna throw the P word around, like, pedophilia. Like, it usually gets bypassed because it's an older woman and a boy, like, and that goes on later into their life. Like they really ruin their sons' lives in the long run. It's kind of sad. Like it really is sad, honestly. Like this should just be a beautiful relationship, but no, it gets turned into yikes. And then it's like everyone else's problem later down the line because this boy is dysfunctional in society. And who raised him to be that way? Boy moms. This, speaking of Substack and literacy, the topic, to which I made a reel the other day, and it seems to be resonating quite unanimous. I think quite unanimously, we all agree on this. So illiteracy in reading comprehension is a glaring problem, especially today. Especially in this age of misinformation, AI, and all that. Like, it's dangerous. It's getting dangerous, especially when you have people reach higher levels into politics, which we do. People who are affecting politics. Like, I'm not going to get too much into that, but... So, there was a post on... I'll quickly recap if you haven't seen it, on Threads. This is where I get most of my tea, by the way. It's like every time you open that app, there is something. In fact, I think like 90%, if not more, of my my talking points are from Threads. Would recommend. It's a good time. Grab your tea. But back to the illiteracy. people are actively trying not to learn, and that's part of the problem. They just want their information spoon-fed to them, which is bad because you can't just take someone random's information at face value. You need to learn critical thinking skills. You need to learn to think for yourself, right? And a lot of people are tracing this back to the whole no child left behind act and mentality. Like they think just passing kids through school is just gonna, push them forward. It's actually the worst, most inhibiting thing you could do for somebody, because there's no accomplishment and they won't actually grow and progress as a person. And now we are seeing it in adults today. They just got pushed through school. They never were challenged. They never were rewarded with the accomplishment of doing it by themselves. And I wanted to point out, a part of this discourse with this this Threads post. So it was someone who, made this post, dear authors, use easier words. Sincerely, your reader, to paraphrase. And the word was scrying. But they sent a screenshot of them looking up the word and had the definition there. And instead of being like, hey, I learned something. No one's making fun of you for not knowing a word. I look up words on the daily. Every time, before I send a post, before I reply, I make sure I'm using the correct terminology and that it emphasizes my point correctly so there's no misunderstanding and I'm using it correctly. But also, if I come across a word, I'll look it up. I love learning new words. That's fun. That should be, the goal for everyone, right? Apparently not. So this person was, demonstrating they demonstrated that they're capable of looking this up and learning a new word, but instead of, taking that accomplishment, they were like, how, can you dumb down your books, please? And so, of course, people responded to that, and I think quite unanimously, we all were like, no, just, if you are having difficulty reading, there's reading levels. You can just go down levels until you find you're comfortable, but complaining that you learned a new word is wild. And this opened another can of, concern. A lot of people are misusing the term ableist. So given that whole interaction, people are like, how dare you guys bully this, and I'm using big quotations, bully this person with your ableism. And it's like, okay, no one's, and I wanted to bring this up too, no one's making fun of, no one's talking about learning disabilities or dyslexia or anything of that nature. We understand that's an entirely different thing, but that's not the case here. The case is this person demonstrated an ability, and instead of being like, yay, accomplishment, no, I'm going to complain and effectively tell everyone around me to lessen their works because I can't read a word to which I demonstrated the ability to look up and learn, but I complained instead. I don't know. That was the real problem, and now people throwing around ableist, it's really unfortunate. It's harming the actual definition of ableism, because now it's you can't throw around accusation, because that's already a problem as it is. Ableism is a glaring problem. If people were actually making fun of someone for not knowing a word, well, I mean, that's not really ableist. It's just, it's mean, it's rude. But if the reason was because they had a learning disability or what have you, and then, that's ableism. But that's not the case. I don't know. I was trying to be very careful with my wording there because I understand. That's an awful thing to, that could have been awfully portrayed, but it I don't know. People just want to fight. They woke up, chose violence. They're bored. I think that's where most of this rage baity fighting on the internet comes from. People are bored, and people are the shame. I guess they're holding on to the shame. We need to really stop being ashamed at the pace that we learn. Like, some people learn slower. That's okay. Some people learn specific ways. I learn specific ways. I'm a visual girly. Like, it's I need to organize myself a certain way and my stuff, and yeah, like, we need to stop being ashamed to ask, and we need to stop shaming for people for asking. Like, there was, what was it? Like, last year there was a streamer, I don't remember his name, but he literally took time off. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to like actually learn how to read." And he literally would stream himself reading, and he'd come across a word and use a dictionary and look it up and be like, "Oh, okay." And he'd learn how to, like, sound words out. Like, it's great. And people were making fun of him because elitism is stupid. The superiority complex. Oh my god, you didn't know that word? Like, please shut up. Let people learn. The fact that he's doing that is great. And the fact that he's being, like, open about it and showing people, like, that's great. We need to normalize that. Like, I don't know. The shame. The shame is the biggest problem regarding learning. And I'm always learning. I'm still learning. Like, we're all still learning. It's great. You're never, like, tapped out. Like, there's that, what's that old adage about, like, if you think you know everything, like, you're actually a fool. I'm butchering the phrase, but it's to that effect, I don't know. But yeah, that kind of emphasized the literacy problem when people are actively trying not to learn. It's, and then just throwing a fit, or other people throwing a fit and enabling that, like, that mindset. I don't, we're not gonna make any progress if we keep, like, thinking that way. We need to learn to think for ourselves, critically think, sound things out, use context clues. Like, I think people need to be challenged a lot more, honestly, and not feel bad when you don't succeed. Keep trying. Try, and again, no matter how many times. And if you need help, you need a little extra help, that's fine. Our next point. An angry elf. So, once again, this is from Threads. Have you guys ever heard the term when hit dogs holler? So, David Crumbolts, apparently he played in the movie Elf, which is why I called this section the Angry Elf. There was a post on Threads, and if you're not on Threads, typically be humble, be normal, be respectful, be a self-thinker. So basically, that's kind of, I'm paraphrasing, and I'll paraphrase this a little better. So Life and Alex, she made a post essentially being like, "Hey, celebrities, we don't do celebrity worship here. Everyone's equal. Be humble, be respectful. This is how the community of Threads operates. We're not like X." And so this is why I said, do you guys know what the phrase "would hit dogs holler"? David Crumbolts comes out of the woodworks and is like, "So you're advocating for bullying of celebrities?" What? What, dude? He went off on a tirade, basically, essentially being like, "Oh, if we don't conform to your rules, then, and a lot of verbiage that kind of, like, echoes of a lot of, right side politics bigots, you know what I mean? Like, all she said was, be humble, be respectful. And suddenly he got insulted. Like, you found a reason to get insulted, David. Why? Why is be respectful a problem? Yeah, I don't know. So that kind of went on for a few days, and it ended up in him deleting his account. Well, yeah, like, what do you call that? Not deleting his account, but not privatizing. Disabling? I guess that's it. Yeah, because he disabled his account twice. Last I saw, he got dogged on, rightfully so, because, like, what? It was insane. He just kept going on and on and on, and a lot of people were um finding, well, I don't know, this might be a little conspiracy. A lot of people were finding that he made some some faceless accounts to try to like stand up for himself and attack people that were commenting about this. And a lot of his simps jumped in. Like, it was crazy. It's basically like rings of misogyny because, a woman said this and now a man's upset. And so a bunch of men are now attacking the women. And, I'm sorry. I know we're tired of hearing about it, but misogyny, man, it's no joke. And quite the motivator of a lot of incels. Ultimately, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Shout out Robot Cthulhu. That was the best phrase takeaway from all of this. Like, chef's kiss of a phrase. Yeah, as far as I heard, his account is still off Threads. Threads never forgets. Threads keeps receipts. You can find, if you literally look up his name in Threads, you'll see remnants of that disaster. It was pretty crazy. All right, another Threads tea, y'all. I probably should stay off Threads. This is this is a problem. But honestly, like I said, it's bringing up such interesting talking points because this next one actually, I've been struggling with this very scenario. So, trauma dumping, right? Before I get into the scenario that brought this up, I have noticed, and this is tough. This is a tough thing because it's like people have absolutely every right to like reach out for help or talk about what they're going through or their mental health and stuff like that. Like, that's great. But there is also like a point of when it becomes a little maybe unfair to the person that you're trauma dumping on, or maybe inappropriate depending on the situation, right? Like, I've personally experienced this a lot, like, and to the point where I kind of, well, I'll say this, like, I've had like close friends do this. I've had a lot of people in my circles do this. A lot of people I barely know or just met, do this too. And that's where I'm like saying like the inappropriateness or the unfairness is like kind of like, like when people are held conversation hostage, it's someone's just talking and you don't want to be rude. And unfortunately, I'm that type of person. I'm kind of a people pleaser doormat. I'm trying to get over it, but, and this is a very sensitive topic and thing. You don't want to be an asshole and be like, hey, like interrupt them or tell them to stop or it's too much. But honestly, like I said, like the person who's receiving that, it's kind of not fair because like sometimes I'm going through my own things, like, and I don't ever want to like compare each other's traumas or burdens, but like, like sometimes I don't have the resources to deal with it because it is putting the burden on the person you're complaining to a little bit, at least. Like, and like, I'm happy to be, an ear or your rock, but there's a point where it gets like, and this is where I feel bad, like you kind of feel, you start getting a little jaded and cynical. At least I have, so I it kind of like becomes a sigh, like, oh god, here we go again. And I don't want to be mean, and like I get it, but it's like when it happens so much, especially when it's people who like every time you're interacting with them or hanging with them and that's all they do is trauma dump and talk about how bad their life is, how shit things are, and blah 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 blah. It's like it's hard not to like get exhausted and not want to be around the person that's trauma dumping on you. So what brought about this topic of conversation, and this is interesting, and see, this is why it's interesting to like see all sides of things, because this happened between two accounts that two people I follow and respect their content. So it was, let's see, I guess, yeah, I am Chad Deshawn and the Complex Rebel. Like, so Chad, and I should mention, this probably isn't as big, but there is something there. I always point out, like, every time there's a a discourse between two individuals, I do take note of their gender identity, their race, things like that. You know, I don't want to make it all about those things like misogyny or racism, but sometimes there's factors. But anyway, so Chad Deshawn, he's a black man. He made this post. Trauma dumping on people is abusive behavior. And that's an interesting statement because I'm like, if you think about it, I don't know. I actually didn't really think too deep about this now that I'm talking about it. I honestly don't know if I would call it abusive behavior, but like I said, like maybe inappropriate or unfair. Or maybe it can be. Maybe sometimes people do use their trauma dumping as a way to manipulate. So, you know what? Fair point. Fair point. But anyway, so the complex rebel, she's a white woman. I should mention though, just to give perspective, she is a person who's always advocating for survivors of abuse, and I believe sexual abuse, like physical abuse from past partners, is her main her topic focus. So like, you know, she's a feminist. She's advocating for people to talk about this and call this out, and being a victim or a survivor herself. So she cues into this, and see, this is why I'm like, I can see how this got twisted into, well, not twisted. I'm not trying to give her too much. She kind of, you know, she saw trauma dumping is abusive behavior. So she saw that, like, she saw red, like, right, she's like triggered from PTSD. She sees that her being framed as an abuser. So she went off. Framing trauma survivors as abusive is for sharing their stories is crazy, right? And it's like, see, this is where the nuance comes in, because it's like, no, trauma survivors should share their stories. They should talk about these things. But there is nuance to that, you know? Like, you can't just trauma dump on people you don't know. Like, I've had that. I literally met someone not too long, and like literally they were trauma dumping their whole fucking life. Like 30 minutes until I like had to be like, hey, I gotta go. Like, you know. But anyway, so like I get like she just like didn't read that. Like she just saw trauma dumping is abusive and just saw red and just went all in. And, you know, given her past, her PTSD, like I can understand where this rage is coming from, and she's just blind to everything else. And, you know, she sees a man saying that, so hence that response. And like I said, I'm not fully excusing it because it is a little unhinged, but I understand. I understand where she's coming from. But I do get the original point that he's making is a valid point. After all this, though, this kind of went sideways real fast. She was completely disregarding everything he was saying, everyone else was saying, and she has quite the following, and he has quite the following, so it kind of became a battle, a war zone. But like I hate, like I can see both sides. I didn't participate in this, but I'm like, oh boy, because I did see her apology after she calmed down. She's like, you know what, I was out of line, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, there's acknowledgement. They blocked each other, from what I gather. So there's no repairing that, I don't think. Yeah, so she stepped away for a bit, deleted her account, because, like, people were, like, and this is the thing with Threads. Threads is run by the black community. Black women, specifically. So it's, like, the reason I mentioned he was a black man is because it's, like, there's so many times where black people are saying things, and then white people will do everything in their power to diminish their points, their pain, the conversation, deflect the conversation, just be racist, just attack them. Like, you know, it's hard, and that's where like a lot of that tied into this discourse too, and that's why I mentioned their races and genders. And you know, it's sad. I can see all these aspects at play, and they can't, and that's what being on a text-based social media app, tone. And like there's no like reading the vibe and the tone. It's just words, and words are so much harsher than talking to somebody. Like in person, I feel like a lot of times these conversations would be way better to have. because I don't know, we all have like there's like a social etiquette being in person, exchanging these heavy topics. And it's interesting being on an outside perspective, seeing all these aspects come to play. Like ultimately, yeah, unfortunately she kind of went off the roller coaster on that one, I have to admit. Um because he brought up a good point. Because trauma dumping, like I said, it's good to talk about that stuff and it's good to reach out for help, but you can't just keep like, using your friends as your therapist or whoever, random people, your coworkers. Like it can be a little inappropriate and uncomfortable for them. Like that's not fair to them, Like although I understand it's great you're wanting to talk about it and reach out, but there are resources for that and I hope you're able to find them if you need them. But, keep that in mind if you're someone who likes to, open up to friends and share. There's a fine line and it's different for every situation and every person, but I don't know, there needs to be some tact there. All right. I'm going to finish this off. This one's going to be short. I don't really have much to say about this. The Kevin Hart roast. Yeah, I think calling it a roast is honestly generous. Let's just call it for what it is. Let's let white people just be racist in front of black people and them be expected to laugh, and let's call it comedy. Yeah, I don't know, that was a really bad recap, but that's what it was. It was basically just a bunch of white people being racist and under the guise of comedy. And it's like, don't get me wrong. I love me some dark humor, some race jokes, but the delivery is really what matters. You can't just say a bunch of racisms and be like, well, it's comedy, and if you get offended, like, no, when you're literally, like, you should have some tact too. Like, honestly, like, every time people are making these type of jokes, I always like to be like, hey, maybe, like, what's the political climate at? Like, maybe we shouldn't talk about a word that rhymes with grinching black people when that actually is happening to this day. Like, have some tact. Be clever about it. Like, don't talk about police brutality and the death of black people when that's a reality. Like, that's not funny. And I really liked Mo Really Hates Media. He's a comedian on a bunch of platforms. I primarily find his stuff on Instagram. I'd highly recommend following him. He's some great commentary. He had some good insights on this too. Like, a lot of people, of course, all they had was, it's comedy, it's a roast, it's supposed to be offensive. And he's like, okay, then I'm offended. Now what? Like, and it's great hearing from him as a comedian, because it's like a lot of times people want to like practical jokes, or it's a joke. That's always the write-off for being nasty, rude, bigoted. Like, you can make these very, like, risky jokes and be clever about it. But, it takes a mind. Like, comedy, a lot of people write comedy off, but it's like a superior intelligence. I swear. Comedy doesn't get enough credit sometimes. But it's also, like, bad jokes being written off as comedy. And by bad jokes, I mean just someone being offensive with the expectation that we can just laugh it off. And I don't know. That whole like thing, it was just uncomfortable. And of course, Kevin Hart laughing, like, it wasn't even like uncomfortable, haha, I'm expected to laugh kind of thing. It was like, he's unfortunately kind of a lost cause. Well, yeah, it's just sad to see all around. Like, that was just a shit show. I haven't watched the whole thing. I just watched a bunch of clips. I don't really want to give them my view, to be honest. Like, I saw enough. I think I'm good. And I think that just ties into what I wanted to say last, is just how blatant racism is getting. Like, Like I've mentioned in previous podcast episodes, it's just exhausting. It's sad that black people have to be the brunt of everything, the punchline, the focus, like the negative focus, like they're on white people's racist minds all the time, and it's just sad. So, and it's disheartening because a lot of like I wanted to really like bring this into to focus. There's a lot of like the importance of community. First of all, like having black spaces is so important. It is so necessary. I myself have found reprieve because I grew up not a lot of black influences in my life, but not only now and later into my adulthood, I'm finding it, and it's honestly so like mentally refreshing and just nice to connect with people who get it. And it's important to be in those safe spaces, black spaces. It's like I notice a lot of white people getting upset that there's black only this, black only that, black celebrations, blah blah blah, and that's unfortunately rooted in racism. Getting uncomfortable or upset about that um is like is, you know, an example of how white people feel like they have to insert themselves. They have to be a part of everything. They have to intrude in everything that's black business. And unfortunately, that's the reason black spaces are so necessary and so important. I've had to make the effort to look for black creators, and once you do, the community kind of shows up on the algorithm, and you start connecting and jiving with each other. Like it's been so like healing mentally, emotionally, everything. Like even like the way I'm wearing my hair isn't a testament to that. Like I have naturally curly hair, like as you can see, and I have been straightening it for years, for as long as I can remember. Like the fact that I can wear my hair like this and love it and enjoy it, I wish I had done this years ago, y'all. But the fact that I'm wearing it like this is like I said, a testament of how of the healing it is to connect with black individuals, celebrate blackness, black beauty. Like it's, I don't know. I just hope people can understand that sometimes we need to connect with our kin, with our community, because of what's out there, of what we're seeing. Like it's people are actively going out of their way to be nasty to black people, to kill black people. I'm sorry to be harsh, but that's the reality. And even a simple little post of celebrating blackness, celebrating black people, black women, black men, whatever have you, someone has to bring it down. Someone has to make it nasty. Someone, like, not even just one person, a overwhelming a lot of people. So racism is tired, y'all. It's tiring. We need our space. We need our reprieve. Leave black people alone. Support black people. Like, it matters. Don't get uncomfortable with these conversations. Don't dismiss them. Don't deflect. They need to be had. Anyway, I didn't want that to get too hard, too heavy, but it had to be said. And this, like I said, I'm black myself, so we need to have these conversations. Until racism doesn't affect anyone, which obviously that's a pipe dream, that's a very idealistic dream, we're gonna have to keep having these conversations. But anyway, I think that's it for my my list. I think I've yapped enough. Thank you if you stuck around. I'm gonna go put on some pants and troll threads for more topics. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.